What's the worst way you've been rejected after asking someone out? Asked a girl to a dance in high school. She said, "What if I have a boyfriend by then?" I had a crush on this boy, and as a girl in middle school, you're not supposed to ask the guy out. But all of his friends said, "Do it, he'll say yes." So I went up to him in the lunchroom in front of everyone, and he stood there smiling, waiting for it. Then, when I asked, he said, "No, are you kidding me?" Laughed and walked away. It was all set up as a funny joke, and everyone was laughing. Imagine a stupid, cheap movie with those mean high school kids. That's exactly how it went down. Really embarrassing. She said, "What? I've been telling people you were my gay friend." I asked this girl out. She started to cry and told me I looked just like her brother that had died in Iraq, and then she showed me a photo of him. Did he look like you? Yeah, he looked like me. It was sort of creepy. When I was about 14, I asked a girl to go out with me. Here's what she said. "But you know you're ugly, don't you?" I mean, you don't have to say that. You can just say no. Why do you add more? That's just cruel. That crap really hurts when you're a teen. That should have been when you replied, "Yeah, that's why I'm asking you." This was back as a freshman in high school, but a popular guy kept asking me out, making a show of it before class started. Eventually, I said yes. He gave me a pitiful look and said, "You know I was just kidding, right?" If you responded seriously in any way, "Yes, no, I have a boyfriend, I don't want to date anyone, whatever," it was, "Did you think I was serious?" If you made a joke, they'd play all wounded and hurt and keep playing that they were serious and that you needed to give them a real answer. If you ignored them, it turned into a big game to make you respond. These people suck. I hated all of this BS. It carries all through high school. Near the end of my senior year, I really liked this chick who was into acting, singing, and all the theatrical stuff. Anyway, I thought she was gorgeous. I flirted, made passes, and tried to ask her out, but she would always avoid me. You can actually typecast me as a jock in high school. I played all sports, but didn't have the jock personality. I actually despised those D-bags. Well, I wrote her a note asking her to meet up and whatnot. She declined, so I stopped bugging her. I ran into her many years later in our hometown over the holidays and asked her why she rejected me. Turns out she thought it was all an elaborate prank. Damn kids. Well, the sad part is that after the story that led into this answer, this girl might have been somewhat justified. Sucks to be everyone. Oh lord, mine said, "Oh my god, you're too early. You see, I really want to go out with Paul, and I decided that if he hadn't asked me out by next Friday, then I would settle for you. So could you please ask me next Saturday? Because then I'll know if I have to or not." This was not junior high or high school. I was 32 and she was 30. Both of us were divorced with children. Just to let anyone who asks know, I didn't ask her out again the following Saturday. The other guy never asked her out either. I continued to run into her for a few years after this incident, and she became a complete train wreck. I definitely dodged a bullet, but I've always felt sorry for her kids. Oh my god, she's raising future people? In first grade, I told some girl I liked that we should go on a date. Somehow, my gosh darn first grade teacher relentlessly made fun of me for it, and the whole class did too. That really messed me up for a bit. I asked a friend to a movie or something when I was 18. She laughed, didn't reply, just laughed. Later, she asked a mutual friend to tell me there was no chance. 2 weeks later, she was at my place asking me to be a date to a party that was coming up and totally into me. I was so confused. You might have really missed out on being pranked there. Good job. You know, my wife has told me a couple of stories about a guy she has a crush on in high school, and when she said it out loud, you could clearly tell the guy was into her, felt mutual attraction, and thanks to her weird behavior, thought that she had rejected him. I think that's the female flip side to all of these. Like, they don't know how to respond to being liked sometimes, and they just insta-reject out of fear. In my wife's case, she had convinced herself that this guy, who was clearly into her, would never be interested in her. I stuttered multiple times while asking her out, and the only thing she said was, "Fail." Then she walked away. I was convinced that the girl was going to come to a movie with me, but she decided that she didn't want to go, so she sent a text saying, "I can't go tonight." Later, I checked Facebook and there were pictures of her with another guy at another movie theater. This was about 3 years ago. When I was in high school, I asked a girl out on a date. She accepted, and when the day came, she told me she couldn't go because she got grounded. I went to a movie with a friend. The girl was sitting in the row behind us, with some guy I didn't know. One time, back in the day of AOL Instant Messenger, this girl was talking to me for a few hours. We had been friends for a few years and I'd always liked her, but she didn't know that. Well, this night she was bugging me about who I liked and wanted to know so bad. Eventually, after probably an hour of deflecting the question, changing the subject, or straight up saying it's private, I said, you. And she responds with, okay, well, I have to go now, bye. She ends up not talking to me for a year, and the only reason she did talk to me was because we were partnered up in a science class that next year. I also learned that around half the grade's girls were over at her house that night for a big sleepover. My school was small and my grade probably had about 30 girls in it, and they all acted noticeably different around me. They wanted to find out who it was so they could embarrass me, as I was a large dude back then and people were making fun of big people. And when they found out it was her, well, I was apparently still the butt of the joke. Middle school was a lot of fun. Mine said while laughing loudly, "Are you serious? Are you asking for someone else or… oh?" And now, a year later, I'm used as a joke. Mine said, "Do I know you?" In the second grade, I built up the courage to tell this girl Casey that I liked her. I only told my friend Daniel how I felt. I got off on her bus stop 3 blocks from mine and I started walking towards her and said, "Hi Casey, And she interrupted me and yelled, "Why did you get off the bus? I don't like you and I don't want you to ever talk to me. Daniel told me everything, just leave me alone forever." I was pretty broken up about it. I marched right to my friend Daniel's house to kick his butt, but his aunt told me he moved that day. Daniel, if you're out there, F you. High school, my awkward phase. My mother tells me I'm pretty and I finally get up the courage to ask out the cutest guy in my year to the movies. He says, "I'll have to think about it," and takes my cell phone number, which I thought was a good sign. We texted a few times, arranged a meet-up at the movies. Get to the day and I'm ready to go. I make myself look all pretty and do my hair nice. I get to the movies and he's there, but so are all his friends. All of them, including the guy I liked, are laughing at the absurdity that he could ever want to go out with me. Laughing at the fact that I got dressed up. It was all a big prank. I've never been so humiliated. This is the worst thing on here. That's just awful. What a bunch of absolute eggplants. Well, I got over it. It made me a nicer person as well, I think. I tend to look past people's appearances and look on who they are on the inside. I think it was beneficial in the long run. Asked a guy I was crushing on to prom. He said, "Sure." 2 weeks before prom, I heard that he had asked another girl. Well, I never said yes. Wow, D-bag alert. And weirdly, not the only person in these stories seemingly keeping someone on the back burner as a safety option. At least that's what I assume he was doing. I swear that this wasn't me. A guy I know works at a boutique clothing store and got a crush on this girl that also works in said store. He asked her out and her response was, "I don't appreciate you talking to me." My response? God damn! This thread is not boosting my self-confidence. In 10th grade for prom, I did a big romantic ask involving our school's marquee, the big signs with interchangeable letters outside some schools, and she said yes. However, the night came, I picked her up, she refused to take pictures with me, barely ate her dinner, and turns out when we got to prom that she had used me to get a ride. We lived on the outskirts of Houston, about an hour away. All because she didn't have a car and her actual date lived out where the prom was and didn't want to drive into town to pick her up. So we got to prom, literally the second we walk inside, she runs away and jumps into the other guy's arms. I felt real bad, man. Listen, I don't want to sound like an eggplant or anything, but maybe she only said yes because you made such a big spectacle of asking her out and she felt obligated to say yes. Like maybe she felt bad rejecting you in front of the entire school. Then afterwards, she couldn't work up the courage to tell you the truth. Then refused to take pictures or eat because she felt guilty? Or maybe she was just a manipulative B-word. I don't know. Honestly, it's not a great thing to make a grand public romantic gesture as a way of starting a relationship. You should only do something like that when you have reason to believe it's going to go smoothly. Otherwise, it's pretty messed up for all parties involved. I'd find it humiliating to face the choice between turning someone down publicly or saying yes publicly and then turning them down afterwards. Mine told me she would rather eat her own tampon. Many tears were shed that night. Met a girl on OkCupid. We did some chatting and some texting. We decided it's time to meet. I go to the spot and I see her. It's obviously her. She makes eye contact with me from about 20-ish feet away and just keeps on walking. I leave, delete her from my phone, and never heard from her again. I didn't have an OkCupid account for much longer either. What the heck? You planned to meet up, you knew what each other looked like, and she showed up and then walked by? That's cold. At least meet up, hang out, and then politely excuse yourself a bit after you've decided that you're completely uninterested. But walking by? What on earth? I know, right? What really got me is that I was actually thinner than my pics on the site. My logic was that if she had agreed to meet a 15-pound heavier me, she'd be impressed by the new me. I was pretty floored by it. At least have the common decency to let me down like an adult. I don't know if she was nervous or scared, but if she didn't want to eat dinner with me, I honestly didn't care to find out. I'm not going to play any games. This isn't high school. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. My friend made this girl a card with a poem in it for Valentine's Day, and he asked her out. She said no and laughed at him. It doesn't help that he misspelled beautiful and the poem went like, "Roses are red, violets are blue, you are beautiful." We refer to that day as the Valentine's Day Massacre. I ended up having a huge crush on this girl that started hanging out with my circle of friends via a friend of a friend kind of thing. She'd just hang out with us, play video games, and talk crap with us, and just generally be a cool girl to be around. We were friends for several months before I started having some stronger feelings for her. I finally got the courage to ask her out. She turned me down in what I hope was an attempt to be nice by saying, "I don't think I could look at your face and be happy if I ever slept with you." Was that her way of saying, our friendship is too important for me to complicate it with feelings and intimacy? Although I appreciate your courage in asking me out, I think, for now, a friendship is what I need from you. I convinced myself that that was indeed the case. I ran into her years later and she told me not going out with me was one of her biggest regrets. We ended up going out, drinking too much, and found our way back to my apartment, where we had a great night of crazy one-night fun. I woke up the next morning and she was gone. I never heard from her or saw her again. I guess she really couldn't stand seeing my face after we slept together. Back in high school, I had a girl say something to the effect of, "Oh God, not another one," after she found out I liked her. I'm sorry about that, and I know it must have been hard, but you have to understand that sometimes this is also really hard for the girl. I don't know her and you didn't specify her tone, but not knowing which of your friends really like you and which ones only want to hook up because you're hot is depressing and annoying after the initial ego boost. My friend had that, not me. I wish. I was the awkward one. 12th grade prom, I finally got up the nerve to ask the girl I was dreaming about for like the last 4 years. She said yes to my astonishment, but says sadly she or her family didn't have the money for a dress. I promptly offered to buy a dress for her and she appeared very happy. After some time, she said, "Let's rent a hotel room. We can go early and get it, then go home and change." She went with me to go get the room first thing in the morning. She grabbed the key when the clerk gave it to us and said, "Okay, see you tonight." We'd already planned the limo and paid for it. I found it weird that she wanted it to pick up her first. She said she wanted to meet my parents. Well, I go home and get ready and waiting and waiting. The limo never comes and she doesn't answer the phone. I get a hold of my buddy at the prom and he tells me that she's there with some other guy from another school wearing the dress that I brought her, riding in the limo I paid for, and I'm sure going to the prom I paid for. Needless to say, I have trust issues to this day. A friend of mine asked a girl to dance one night at the club. Her response was, "No thanks, I've only had one drink." All my friends said you're too ugly for me to date. I think the worst part of this is that the lady or gentleman in question is either hiding behind their friends to avoid doing the hard work, or it's genuine and they haven't formed their own opinions. Ugh. Let me preface this by saying that I'm a guy. It was middle school and the last few days of 8th grade. After that, I would have gone off to high school. I wasn't really sure on whether or not I was gay or bi or whatever. All I know is that I had a really big crush on someone I've known since 5th grade. After a tormenting few days, I finally got the courage to write the most intricate, most delicate love letter that I'll probably ever write in my life. I don't think it was creepy. It was along the lines of, "I really like you. I know it's weird for a boy to say that to another boy, but it's the end of the year and I figured I'd throw caution to the wind. At the very least, I'd know that I tried instead of wondering what if." And I asked him out. I gave him this letter. I told him it was extremely personal. Instead of reading it right there, he took it home instead. Tomorrow was the last day. I couldn't have possibly been more stressed. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. My heart was racing the entire night. Finally, the last day of school comes, and I'm sitting on the stairs reading Ender's Game, waiting for the day to start where he comes up to me. Now, since this is the lobby, pretty much the entire student body is crowded in here, waiting for the bell to ring so we can scatter to our homerooms. Right there, loudly, in front of everyone, he took something personal and made it into a public spectacle. I was shut down in front of the entire middle school and at the same time outed. I was shocked, mortified, and he didn't even do it nicely or privately. Until right then, he was the nicest guy I've ever known. I didn't cry. I don't think I could have with everyone so silent, watching me like they were. The bell finally broke the silence and everyone else shuffled off. Next year in high school, his friend was in my English class. I don't know how we started the arguing, but he started reciting something that sounded familiar. It was excerpts from the love letter. The guy I had a crush on worked up the courage of 1,000 suns to ask out. He had showed all of his friends. Wow, that was incredibly courageous of you. I rejected someone the worst possible way almost 20 years ago, and it still haunts me. Maybe he feels the same way now, if he was a nice guy before, and like me, he was the biggest little coward back then. The first time I ever had a crush on a boy, I invited him to dinner. I cooked it all on my own and everything. I waited 45 minutes before I finally just went to my room and cried. I was 13. Just remember, guys, it is so much better to ask and hear a no than it is to keep pondering over if you should have made a move. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. I mean, that's also a quote from John Wilkes Booth. I'll be leaving now. I had a crush on a girl for all of middle school and 2 years of high school. After my friend set me up to ask her out, she said yes and we spent a great day together. After I got home, she called me and tells me she's changed her mind. She goes back to her ex and then dumps him a week later. Another mutual friend then invites her over for our 4th of July celebration. I made a custom firework, which you should never ever do by the way, and set it off. The problem was, I dropped a spark into the main chamber as opposed to the fuse. What was essentially 3 flares blew up into my face. I wasn't injured at all, but when I regained composure, all I heard was the girl yelling out to my friend to see if he was okay. In short, blinded by the light, wrapped up like a dink, another runner in the night. She told everyone in my small liberal arts college how awful I was. To this day, I don't understand why. I was completely nice and if anything, too shy. I always feared a girl doing this to me, which is why I was so shy in the first place. She just destroyed my self-confidence for years and years afterwards. I think ignoring me. That's got to be the worst because it makes you think about trying again. Maybe they didn't hear me. All sorts of possibilities fly through your head. I just want something concrete like, sorry, you're not attractive. Laughter. The laughing is definitely the worst. People really undermine the whole process by saying the worst thing that could happen is she says no. A girl and I were friends in high school and hung out a lot. I liked her but was too shy to ask her out. I was popular and a jock, but overweight and had serious self-esteem issues. Yes, even jocks are human. We flirted and I thought she was giving me the right signs. My crush was the worst kept secret. Everyone knew, even her, but we all just ignored the elephant in the room and continued to be friends until I could work up the courage. On Valentine's Day, I laid a large bouquet of roses and a love letter expressing my feelings and asking her out on her front porch. All I got in return was a thanks. No discussion or anything remotely related to the content of the letter. I was too embarrassed to pursue the issue and pretended it never happened. I then found out through the grapevine that she didn't like me in that way. She was actually waiting and hoping someone else was going to ask her out. I played that off, but I was terribly hurt. Ironically, because we were such good friends, everyone expected me to ask her to prom, including her. It was clear she would have said yes, but we'd have gone as friends. One night I was hanging out with one of my best girl mates, and I impulsively asked her to the prom. She was so excited and said yes, even though we'd be going as friends. When word got out that I'd asked someone else to prom, it was a scandal. The other girl never got asked to prom, and I had a fantastic night with my group of friends. She said yes, but the next day I saw her with another man on the playground. Oh, the woes in the life of a first grader. Just for the guys out there, I want you to know that throughout my life, plenty of guys have asked me out for which there was definitely nothing wrong with them. In fact, I was attached to them and would definitely have said yes had I not had a boyfriend already. Sometimes no just means poor timing. Keep that in mind. I got her number when I asked her initially, bragged about it to my friends, and then when I called later, she responded along the lines of, "Ew, wish she'd just said no from the start so I wouldn't have bragged." I'm into taller guys. That crap affects my confidence on a daily basis. I really do hate being a short guy. After a few weeks of hanging out, I finally asked. He said, "Sure, we can go out sometime, but you know I'm gay, right?" I was so shocked all I could do was say, "No. No, I did not know that." In elementary school, all of the girls in my class had a crush on the same boy. A bunch of us got together and wrote all of our names on a paper which read, "Circle the girl you liked most." He replied with, "I hate all of you." When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.